Ladies and gentlemen, today a review of Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Before I begin, I'm going to read a synopsis from IMDb. The film continues the story of teenage Billy Batson, who upon reciting the magic word Shazam is transformed into his adult superhero alter ego, Shazam. I really liked the original Shazam movie starring Zachary Levi. I thought it was really charming, and I thought that the teenage characters really did a lot to fill out the story and the plot. You really did care for them, and I thought that the movie was ultimately just really charming and kind of well done. This, the sequel to that movie, I think really does fall flat in a lot of ways. First and foremost, Billy Batson is basically Shazam throughout the entire movie, and I really do like Zachary Levi. I think he's really charming, but I kind of think that there's a really big disconnect between Billy Batson and Shazam. Seriously, I think that both of these actors have to kind of get in the same room and just really kind of feed off of each other and understand that they're playing the same character. That I don't really think that Zachary Levi was really playing Billy Batson. Well, they really do feel like two separate characters, and they kind of give off two very different energies. But for most of the plot of this movie, I just didn't have any engagement with the characters themselves. I think the first movie did a lot with the teenage characters and really kind of fleshed out their stories. Here, you don't really get a sense of those teenage stories, except for Freddie Freeman, played by Jake Dylan Glazer. The first act of this movie is really about him, and he really did bring his charm and humor, and I liked it a lot. But for Billy Batson and the other characters, you don't see much of them as teenagers. The movie does a lot to just have the characters in their Shazam form throughout most of the movie, and I think there's a lot lost because of that. First of all, the actors that play the adult versions of these teenage characters don't have a lot of chemistry with themselves. This feeling of disconnection with those characters was really augmented by the fact that when the kids actually show up and they're not in their superhero form, the film does become better and more lighter and more funnier. The teenage characters just have more chemistry together, and it's just funner. Another downfall of the sequel is the fact that the antagonists are very unclear. Definitely towards the third act of the movie, you know who the big bad antagonist is, but for a lot of the second act of this movie, you're kind of wondering who is the bad person here. Who are the bad guys? What do they want? The big bad guy here really doesn't have a lot to say. They're really just a bad guy for bad guy's sake. It feels just like a really paint-by-numbers superhero movie for most of its runtime. But I will say that towards the end, especially when you get more of the teenage characters and you really kind of understand who the bad person is and exactly what's going on in the world and what's going on in the plot, it does have a lot of fun moments. And when the plot really sticks to its guns and it knows what it wants, there's some definite fun here. I do think that it sticks the landing, but for a lot of the plot, it's just very meandering. I do applaud the director for really kind of instilling a little bit of darkness to the bad guys. There's definitely some moments here where you really do see the fact that this director is a horror movie director by trade, and there are some definite creep out, scary moments, and it really adds to the ambiance of the film. But a lot of that is just cheapened by the fact that the plot is just so meandering that you're just kind of lost in exactly what is happening. There is a definite through line in the entire movie about family and understanding how to let go and real poignant messages, but it's all really kind of cheapened by the fact that there just isn't a lot of chemistry with the adult Shazam characters, and the absence of the younger characters is just really felt because of that. Seriously, I really do think this movie would have been better if they just kind of stuck to their guns with the original movie, where you had more of the teenage characters and less of the Shazam characters, because the hollowness of the adult Shazam characters is just so prevalent and so blatant on screen. And I really like Zachary Levi. I think he's a great actor, and he does well as Shazam here. But ultimately, I just don't believe him as the Billy Batson as the younger actor plays him. They're just not on the same page when it comes to their performance. There's definitely some fun sequences, especially towards the end, again when there's a little bit more of the younger actors playing the younger selves. But the stakes are kind of all over the place because you really don't understand who the bad guys really are. I think the movie definitely starts off strong. There's this really cool scene in a museum where you're introduced to the antagonist, and I thought that that was really well done. It's just kind of confusing because there's just a lot that this movie is trying to do, but it really doesn't stick to one thing at all, and so those subplots are just not satisfying. I do give applause to the performances of some of the antagonists. You have Lucy Liu here, which I'm glad to see her in something. Helen Mirren, who is an incredible actress and does a lot here to really elevate the script that she's given, which doesn't have a lot of meat on the bones for her to chew on, except for that very cool first scene of the movie where they're introduced. Definitely had some good time here, but just the charm and the fun of the first movie I feel is just lost because the story just did not understand what it wanted to do with the adult Shazam characters. Getting away from the formula of the first movie lended itself to it just not being a cohesive story here. I just feel that the journey to the ending here was just a meandering mess filled with uncharming characters and subplots that just didn't fit the overall story. I give Shazam! Fury of the Gods a 6.5 out of 10. Ultimately, I think this movie falls apart because it went away from what the first movie had. Charming characters with a very basic and easy plot to understand. Here, it becomes so convoluted with subplots that things just become lost. And the biggest criticism is the fact that we don't get a lot of the younger characters until the very end of the movie. And I just don't think that the older Shazam characters have a lot of chemistry together. All that chemistry in the first movie was really because the younger kids melded together better. I love Zachary Levi's performance, but I think he and Billy Batson just aren't the same character. And I think it would have been better if they really kind of got on the same page. And the third act of the movie actually does a lot to bring back the younger characters and bring a more coherent plot together by combining all of these subplots. And it ultimately had a fun ending, but for most of the movie, it was just a meandering mess, and I just missed the charm of the first movie. Some fun here, but ultimately kind of a disappointment. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I appreciate you watching all the way to the end. Please, if you made it this far, like, comment, and subscribe. I will do my best to reply to any comments that come in. I appreciate you very much. Have a good rest of your day.